because God is almighty, God can transform us from darkness to light. And if you are one of the few people who have gone through hell, and you came out the other end and you saw the light, you know what I'm talking about when I say that there is a great power in these dark things, in these negative things, in pain and suffering. And if you are a Christian, you know how Jesus ended up and what happened to him at the end and before his resurrection, right? So let that sink in. I don't understand why people now want to kind of make a Disney world out of this, out of religion, out of God, out of everything, to say, I want to live in this Mickey Mouse world where everything is sunshine and rainbows, and that is the closest to God that we can get. Like, everything has to be a certain way. And I would also urge people to just think, because my purpose with this is to make people more aware. You know, we can become arrogant and prideful and judgmental. And this is not of God to be this way, right? Only because somebody doesn't look the way you're used to, is unconventional, it doesn't mean that they're evil, and you condemning them and telling them this and this and this is going to happen to you. Like, how on earth do you think that's a good thing? I mean, if you believe in those things where it literally says, oh, you have to stone people to death because of whatever they're doing, and you ignore the coming of Jesus and what he preached, then you miss the entire point of the Bible. Remember, what humans say is good or bad is not always to be followed, right? They fear God, not man. So what people deem as good and bad is inherently flawed. My cross earring, my grungy makeup, my alternative style, my nose, fake nose piercing, my tattoos, my alchemy shirt that I made myself and I'm selling on Etsy. For some people who are very judgmental, I guess I have an impression on them. And it's problematic, to say the least, to judge a person by just the way they look. And I got inspired to make this video because I got a comment from a woman who claims to be Christian, very obviously so. And basically I was talking about, well, I can link the video below. I don't remember what it was, which video it was, but she was basically saying that I look like a witch. And this is not about me, okay? This is kind of, I'm starting it with this comment, but it's not like me responding to hate. I want to ask people, and I want to open up a discussion about why do people who claim to practice religion, that is, I feel like what religion boils down to is not only specific rules and all these types of things. It seems like the point is to bring us closer to God and bring us closer to love and peace. At least that's what I believe it should be, you know, spiritual practice. And that's what I do. I'm very, very spiritual. I have spiritual gifts that some people have as well. Most people don't. Most people don't understand. And and I am not religious for a reason. So first of all, I guess in my defense, even though I don't need to defend myself, but I just want to make it clear that I don't worship anything other than God. And I don't care what you call God. I really don't care if you call God Jesus, if you call God Jah, if you call God Allah, if you call God the universe or yourself. I know this is a strange concept for some people who are very close-minded, and no offense, but I don't believe that it matters that much what we call God, as long as we understand what God is. So obviously we have this distinction between people who are religious and people who just believe in God, right? I'm kind of targeting this video as well. By the way, I have a Bible, just because some people don't believe me or whatever, and I didn't just get it just because. It's not like I'm secretly a Satanist or whatever you call these people, because if I was, I would not have a problem to talk about it. It's not like I'm making some popular content at all, so there's no reason to believe that I'm deceiving people in that way. And I'm not telling people what to do, ever. I provide spiritual guidance, and people who want to take it, and people who don't want to take it, don't. But I don't understand why so many people use Christianity or other religions as a mask to pretend to be good people. Because even if I'm not reading from the Bible right now, I can tell you with certainty that God knows our hearts. And God doesn't care about what title we put on ourselves. It literally doesn't matter. And there are verses you can find who support this. I never knew you, right? Things like that. You know what I'm talking about if you know what I'm talking about. So why am I making this video? Because, okay, these people are bigoted. Maybe you are not under the impression that I'm some dark, weird devil worshipper. But maybe you are, I don't know. Maybe you are like me, not white. And I don't want to make this discussion about race, but it's a discussion about culture. I believe we have a rational mind, and I believe we have a spiritual soul. And you may notice some energy from me that is strong, that is maybe even dark, that is, I don't know what you want to call it. And I'm going to explain to you why that is, because it's not wrong. So I come from a family who have practiced voodoo. So basically dark magic, black magic, whatever you want to call it. The recent person who practices anything, she actually practiced a type of white magic, but it's still under the classification of voodoo. And that's why you can't judge on the surface alone. So my grandmother used plants and her wisdom from principles to heal people. So she healed people from asthma or other types of illnesses. And that's it. Where I'm from, a Caribbean island, voodoo that is evil or dark magic or harms people is called opia. And it's forbidden by law. So people rejected that. Most I guess the government, you can say, is Christian. I don't know how to, but you know what I'm talking about. So most people go to church and all of these things. But in a lot of cultures like mine, and this is only half of my culture, but anyways, or like, for example, Mexican people, you know that they took in Christianity, but they mixed it with their own culture. So believe it or not, for example, Mexicans have their own type of voodoo and they mixed it with Christianity. It's because the colonialists came and basically told them that what you're doing is wrong and it's so different because they didn't understand it. I would, as I said in the very beginning of the video, I would suggest that there is not one way to be close to God. I do understand people being concerned about worshipping many gods or different gods or something like that, and that's like kind of a complex thing to think about. But I'm talking about exclusively believing that there's one God and that's it. And if you pay attention to something that is not God, but is maybe a subcategory that is part of God, like God is in life, God is in death, right? These types of things. So if you look at death, for example, with what Mexicans do with their skull thing and the Day of the Dead and all of these things, to honor their ancestors that passed, you can easily be scared off or think it's a bad thing. You can look at everything that is negative and just reject it and say this is bad. But I would argue that from negativity, because God is almighty, God can transform us from darkness to light. And if you are one of the few people who have gone through hell and you came out the other end and you saw the light, you know what I'm talking about when I say that there is a great power in these dark things, in these negative things, in pain and suffering. And if you are a Christian, you know how Jesus ended up and what happened to him at the end and before his resurrection, right? So let that sink in. I don't understand why people now want to kind of make a Disney World out of this, out of religion, out of God, out of everything, to say, I want to live in this Mickey Mouse world where everything is sunshine and rainbows, and that is the closest to God that we can get. Like, everything has to be a certain way. And I would also urge people to just think, because my purpose with this is to make people more aware. You know, we can become arrogant and prideful and judgmental. And this is not of God to be this way, right? Only because somebody doesn't look the way you're used to, is unconventional, it doesn't mean that they're evil. And you condemning them and telling them this and this and this is going to happen to you. Like, how on earth do you think that's a good thing? I mean, if you believe in those things where it literally says, oh, you have to stone people to death because of whatever they're doing, and you ignore the coming of Jesus and what he preached, then you miss the entire point of the Bible. To me, it seems like people pick and choose what they want, and they want to go to the dark times, let's say, and say, well, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be ending people's lives because they don't believe in whatever I believe in. Like, that's not what it's about. That's not what Jesus preached. So I really don't get why people I understand some people are limited in their minds, but at the same time, if you're so disconnected to your heart, and God is in your heart, God is supposed to be connected to your heart, that you lash out at people in that way, I'm really worried for your soul if you're like this. I really, really am. And what's sad to me is that these people don't really seem savable, you know? So, okay, we talked about that. Maybe you were like in the same wavelength as me. And you're like, okay, these people are like that. I'm not like that. But I also wanted to make this video just to put out some worry for this type of mentality, because this can affect everybody. You know, everybody is sometimes a bit, we can feel like we're better than other people. And I was talking with a good friend about being chosen, and then also I saw in the comments of my last video that some people are favored by God. And then, you know, if you look it up and stuff, it says, oh, nobody's favored by God and all of these things. I mean, let me know what you think about that. But the closer you are to God, the more you get challenged in several ways. And I know this is not for everyone to talk about these things, to think about these things, but I'm not a normal person, so you should get used to it if you're interested in these things. That's why I'm different, you know? You are maybe different if you watched until this point. I guess you are. And that's not a bad thing. So what I believe is that demons are real, because I've seen it. And there are other people who've seen it as well. And no, it's not a hallucination, it's not a schizophrenic thing or whatever, because I did go to therapy and I don't have problems like that. So I know for sure that it's not, that's not the issue here. It's a spiritual thing. It's not like I literally saw a demon sitting in front of me, like in the flesh, you know. It's not a flesh thing, so it's a bit hard to describe. But if you know, you know. And if that stems from you, or if that's an outside thing that's looking at you, is debatable. All I can say is that this is not in my life anymore. So I guess I'm just kind of starting to talk about these things and opening up more, and it's not easy, because there are some things I could tell you that are really scary, and other people, and then they say, and then I got saved and everything is better. And it's true. It is true. But it doesn't mean that anything mythical, anything that's out of the norm, anything that's not conventionally good is bad. Because remember, what humans say is good or bad is not always to be followed, right? If you're God, not man. So what people deem as good and bad is inherently flawed. I have a family member who struggles with demonic attachments and a dark past. As I said, my family has been dealing with dark things, and maybe it's even the history, you know, maybe it's a mixture of what happened with slavery, being enslaved, and before that, the ancient African religions and religions of nature and all of these things. And again, if you want to demonize it, I don't really care. I really don't care, because as long as you don't harm anybody, as long as you don't start worshipping demons, as long as you don't practice weird rituals, because I don't do these things. Believe it or not, I don't do these things. As long as you don't do these things, I think it's good to understand it, right? And there's something we can learn, and there's something we can take away from it without participating in these ancient ways of doing things. We don't have to do that. I know it's a bit abstract, I know it's not for everyone, But yeah, I wanted to just open up these things, especially people of African descent. I think we have lost something because of this demonization, and I don't think it's justified. I think what's justified is well, saying like, okay, if you want to, for example, sacrifice an animal or a human, crazy, right? If you do these things and you do it because you think you have to for a god, that's obviously wrong. You're obviously not worshiping God, you're worshiping something else. Maybe that's like pretending to be God, or you think it's God. And of course, you know, I don't know if it's too much to ask to have common sense about these things, you know? But then there's some wisdom that is still in our DNA for a reason. And having discernment, like proper discernment to know what's going on, like with our thoughts, with our like messages, with how we relate to our experience, and if we can properly judge that a message or something is from God or not, is incredibly difficult. And it's a lifelong journey. And I am on this path, you know. I don't want to brag, but I just want to make clear that most people don't walk this path. And at least I am dedicated to walking this path. And there's somebody who didn't understand my name, Sage Art. They said, you know that Sage Art is like forbidden or something like that. And I said, so first of all, oh, I hope you don't practice in sage arts, because that's like you're gonna end in hell or something. And again, I don't practice anything strange, what you might think. It's actually, the name is art is because I'm an artist. Okay, I made these clothes. I do art in many other ways. I'm an artist. And to become a sage is something that is just inherent in me, like this urge to learn about the spiritual. My mother said since I was very, very little, I was very connected to nature and to really communicate with animals, and I always wanted to understand things on a very deep level. So to walk the path of a sage is the path of wisdom. There's absolutely nothing demonic or anything like that in that path. It's not a thing. So what's strange is that I notice that people who judge me in that way, people who look at me and say, oh, you have tattoos, or you have, and they're not demonic, okay? It's just a sun and a moon, and I'm not worshipping the moon, I'm not worshipping anything. But I don't understand why, if we appreciate things that maybe the majority of people don't appreciate, and we find deep meaning in it, and it leads us to a more godly life, to a better discipleship as a follower of Christ, right? And I'm never going to call myself a Christian, but I do still believe in the ways of Jesus. And if there's anything that brings us closer to that, it's a good thing. That's what I believe. And I believe that people don't take teachings seriously enough, because some of the people who went to church since childhood, some of the people who are daughters of preachers or whatever, people who seem and should be close to God, are sometimes the furthest away from God. So, no, I will never participate in religion. I'm not a witch. if you want to call somebody who has spiritual gifts a witch, then I don't know what you want to call Jesus. I think a lot of people are missing the point with the story of Jesus. We're missing the point that we're supposed to be disciples. That means walking in the footsteps of Jesus, basically, trying to live like Jesus, or God, I really don't mind what you want to call it. Trying to be God-like. And obviously that doesn't include anything sinister. At least I would hope that that's clear and implied, right? So I'm not gonna come here as some no offense, but like, I don't know what you want me to look like. I have a very ancient and diverse ancestry, and that's what you're gonna see, that's what you're gonna feel in my energy. I call myself a sage for a reason. I make these videos for a reason. And my intention is just to bring people closer to God. So if you keep judging people on the way they look, you are misguided, okay? And we need to be careful what we do with our superficial human senses, right? Because I think it's kind of clear that we're not meant to just jump and go on autopilot with our instincts, right? That's not the point. If we would do that, imagine anytime you feel lustful, you just go for it. That's to me, it's the same thing. It's honestly the same thing. And because people look at me, and I don't want to, I have to become graphic sometimes, but because people look at me and they see certain features in my face, or my eyes, or my voice, and they feel like there's a sensuality about it or whatever. So many people are projecting the things that they feel onto others, and they want to throw it as an accusation and say, oh, you are like this, so stop being like this. Like, I literally made a video about why I'm not dating on dating apps and stuff like that. And several men commented basically insinuating that I was promiscuous, but in the video and in reality, I'm abstinent. Like, I don't do things that a lot of people do, and that's my own choice, and that's my vow to God, So people project, and they want to just say, oh, you look this way, I find you attractive, so that means you're like some lustful demon or something. It's a bit funny, but at the same time, it's quite serious, because if people can't even look beyond the surface, like, how far do you think that person is removed from God? So yeah, I didn't want to make a video defending myself per se, but I just needed to put this out there. I just needed also to explain to people that I'm not a devil worshipper or anything like that. And because also I offer spiritual counseling, and that's because I have the gift of, well, basically I sense people's soul. So it's not like I look at you and I know the future, but if we talk, I sense your energy. I get, like, it's hard to describe, but basically I'm very good at guiding people to the truth. And some people are not ready for the truth, but some people are really desperate for it. And they can't find anybody to talk to about these things, or the only thing that comes close is some kind of tarot reader or something else of that sort, and they don't feel comfortable with it because they don't know what's behind. And I can't blame them, because I also don't trust these things anymore, because there's something off about it. And I don't use any of these tools. I don't need to. It's like you know how some people are colorblind, so they can't see all colors. And then I think in a spiritual sense, that's the same thing. And it's because, I'm telling you why I have this gift, and I'm not the only one who has this gift or other gifts, but not everybody can handle certain things. And you know, God makes us the way we are made for a reason. If you didn't watch my last video, watch it. Like, the title is Why God Made You This Way. And yeah, as I said, my intention is to bring people closer to God. If they feel like they would want to talk to me about their personal things a bit, like not like whatever they want to talk about, but like in a spiritual way, to come closer to their purpose and to God, you know, that's what I want to do. And if not, then not. I don't care. I'm not going to say, oh, give me $1,000 so I can rip you off. That's not what I'm here to do, and I will never do that. But anyways, you can book a free call if you want to. And then I have sessions for $50 or £45. So yeah, that's it from me. And I'll pray for you as I always do. I hope you find closeness to your spirit, to your connection to God. And we may stay blessed. We are blessed. And thank you for your time. Like the video if you want to. Subscribe if you care. And I hope to speak to you soon. And by the way, if you are of African descent or whatever else, or if you're just interested in it, you know, because I'm half white, so white people also have a right to know about these things. But if you're open-minded, if you want to learn more about like voodoo and stuff, because there's a lot to it. There's principles to it that are just, it's the label voodoo, but it's not about voodoo. It's about how people used to be so connected to nature, and God is in nature, you know, that they found universal truths, and these truths can really help you. For example, it helps me to be very, very healthy. It helps me to have mental clarity in all kinds of things, energy in all kinds of ways. And also I healed chronic diseases in myself. I don't want to say if you have like a serious condition, I'm gonna heal you. No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that my connection with God improved my life to a really strong degree. And some people say, oh, I can tell you're this and that and you're this and that. But I'm not the only person who is able to access these things. And that's why I want to offer the spiritual counseling, to help people to get closer to that state. So yeah, I think that was a better way to describe it. And yeah, stay blessed and see you soon.